When we talk about love, age is often treated like an obstacle, something that should create doubt or distance. But sometimes age isn't what weakens a connection. Sometimes it's the very thing that gives a relationship its depth. Attraction doesn't always follow society's rules. It doesn't always show up where we expect it or between the people others approve of. And when a younger man truly falls for an older woman, the bond often moves far beyond physical desire. It becomes something richer, shaped by emotional maturity, mutual respect, inner growth, and a kind of intimacy that feels rare. I am Liz Rose, a relationship expert, author, and researcher of emotional dynamics between men and women. For years, I have studied attraction, male behavior, emotional intelligence, and the patterns that bring people together or drive them apart. Today, I want to share with you what I've learned through my research, my professional experience, and the thousands of stories I've encountered throughout my journey. So how do you know when his feelings are genuine? How can you tell when his heart is truly invested in an older woman? The answer isn't found only in his actions. It's also hidden in his words, because words reveal emotions that behavior sometimes tries to cover, especially when those words slip out naturally, in honest, unplanned moments. The 11 phrases I'm about to share aren't just sweet compliments. They carry something deeper. They come from admiration, trust, vulnerability, and an emotional connection he may not even know how to explain. Let's begin. 1. I feel safe with you. At first, this might sound like a small statement, maybe even a surprising one. Society often tells men they must be the strong ones, the protectors, the steady presence, the one who provides emotional security for someone else. So when a man tells an older woman, I feel safe with you, he's admitting something far more intimate than it seems. He isn't talking about physical safety. He's talking about emotional safety. The ability to relax, to stop performing, to put down the mask. In my work, I've noticed that a mature woman often carries a grounded energy that younger partners are still learning to develop in themselves. She has survived heartbreak and loss, and somewhere along the way, she learned how to calm herself and stand steady in her own life. That steadiness becomes a refuge for a younger man who loves her. When he says, I feel safe with you, what he truly means is, I don't have to act like someone else when I'm with you. I can be honest here. I can be soft here. I can be vulnerable without worrying that you'll use it against me. You'll see this show up in real life. He starts sharing fears he usually hides, old wounds, dreams he's never said out loud, insecurities he normally keeps buried. He may cry in front of you. He may admit when he's unsure. He becomes more affectionate, seeking closeness, not just for desire, but for reassurance. The relationship becomes his emotional home. This is perhaps the most vulnerable phrase a man can say, because it admits a need for comfort, something rarely associated with traditional masculinity. When he finds it in an older woman, it builds a connection rooted in mutual trust. 2. You get me like nobody else does. There's a difference between being heard and being understood. This phrase reflects emotional intimacy that goes far beyond physical attraction or surface compatibility. When a man says this, he's acknowledging that you don't just listen, you understand. You see the layers beneath his behavior. You recognize when he's masking insecurity with humor, or when his silence means he's processing something deep. In my research, I've found this happens more often with older women because they tend to have stronger emotional intelligence, reading cues more accurately and responding with empathy instead of judgment. This usually comes from years of navigating complex human dynamics, which teaches a woman how to truly see people, not just react to them. When he says, you get me like nobody else does, he isn't complimenting your communication skills. He's recognizing you as someone who validates his internal world. That validation is deeply bonding, and it often surfaces during meaningful conversations, especially when he's sharing something others have dismissed or misunderstood. That's the magic. When a man feels emotionally recognized, he attaches on a level far deeper than chemistry. It becomes about emotional resonance, when being seen not as an idealized version of himself, but as his full, flawed, complex self, and still being embraced. 3. I can't imagine my life without you now. This phrase can appear early in an age gap relationship, and it often catches both partners off guard with its intensity. When a man says it, he's voicing something profoundly serious, that you've become part of his vision for the future. This phrase, alongside the first two, marks the beginning stages of emotional vulnerability, understanding, and vision building. From here, the relationship starts to shape him, not just how he feels, but who he's becoming. The next three phrases reveal something different. They show the personal growth, emotional depth, and seriousness of intention that come from being loved by someone with experience and wisdom. 4. You make me want to be better. This phrase stands out because it isn't about what you give him. It's about what you inspire in him. It isn't about inadequacy or feeling like he isn't good enough. It's the opposite. It's about feeling seen in a way that motivates him to rise. Not out of obligation, but out of admiration. In my experience, older women often carry a well-developed sense of purpose. They've built careers, learned hard life lessons, and carry themselves with intention. That creates a natural standard of emotional maturity, and it can be deeply inspiring for a younger man who is still defining his own path. When he says this, he might mean he wants to get serious about his goals, communicate more clearly and empathetically, or build better habits like discipline and emotional regulation. It's a sign that your influence is making a real internal impact. He doesn't just love you, he admires you. He respects how you carry yourself, how you think, how you treat people. In this dynamic, love becomes a catalyst. You're not asking him to change. Your example simply shows him what's possible, and he wants to rise to meet it. 5. I tell my mom about you. This might sound playful, but its emotional weight is enormous. A man's relationship with his mother often carries deep significance, and talking about a romantic partner with her reflects seriousness, pride, and long-term thinking. In an age gap relationship, this becomes even more meaningful. These relationships often face outside scrutiny or misunderstanding. So when a man brings his older partner into family conversations, it means he isn't hiding the relationship. He wants his family to know who you are. He respects you enough to bring you into his closest circle. I've found that this phrase signals both emotional transparency and future vision. He's placing you in his personal narrative, the story he tells about his life, his choices, his future. It also shows he's ready to defend the relationship if he needs to. For you, hearing this phrase can be deeply affirming. It tells you that you're not being kept in the shadows because of your age. You're being valued, acknowledged, and woven into his life. 6. You're the only person I can talk to about this. This is where intimacy deepens into exclusivity, not possessive, but emotional. When a man says this, he's telling you that you've become his primary confidant. That's a profound role, and it isn't given lightly. It's earned through emotional presence, patience, and understanding. This phrase tends to surface during real-life complexity, career crossroads, family pressure, emotional confusion, or self-doubt. In these moments, an older woman often becomes more than a romantic partner. She becomes a guide, a listener, and a grounding voice that helps him process his life. When he tells you you're the only one he can talk to, it means he feels emotionally safe. He believes in your capacity to understand complexity, and he sees your input as something that truly matters. This isn't dependency or neediness. It's emotional exclusivity, the fact that he doesn't feel this level of connection with anyone else. I've noticed that younger men are often surrounded by friends who are supportive, but not deeply introspective. The emotional depth of an older woman offers something different. A capacity to hear what isn't being said and to hold emotional space without rushing to fix or dismiss. Let's pause and look at what these three phrases really reveal. You make me want to be better speaks to growth through inspiration. I tell my mom about you speaks to pride and long-term seriousness. You're the only person I can talk to about this speaks to emotional trust and reliance. These aren't just lines, they're emotional milestones. They show that the relationship has moved from affection to integration, from excitement to stability, from attraction to trust. In age gap relationships, where the foundation is often rooted in emotional depth rather than social approval, these phrases matter even more. Now we move into territory where love defies expectation and challenges convention. These next three phrases aren't just reflections of what he feels. They're declarations. They reveal the courage it takes to love against the grain, the awe of encountering something entirely new, and the bittersweet ache of time lost. 7. I don't care what people think. This phrase is never spoken casually, especially in a relationship that challenges social norms. When a man says it, he isn't just defending the relationship, he's affirming it with conviction. I've come to see this as one of the clearest signs of emotional maturity because it shows he's reached a point where the value of the connection outweighs his fear of judgment. Society often has strong opinions about relationships that don't fit the mold. Side glances in public, unsolicited advice from friends, subtle disapproval from family. There's real pressure to conform. But when a man declares that he doesn't care, he's choosing authenticity over conformity, love over perception, emotional integrity over comfort. This usually emerges after the relationship has deepened, once the emotional, intellectual, and physical bond has become undeniable. He may have faced skepticism from peers or endured awkward questions, but by this point, he's no longer swayed by it. He knows what he has is real. What makes this phrase so meaningful is that it often comes unsolicited, a spontaneous declaration in response to nothing in particular. It's his way of saying, I know this might raise eyebrows, and I still choose you. This isn't rebellion, it's clarity. He's found something so rare that the opinions of others fade into irrelevance. 8. I've never felt this way before. This phrase signals that he's entered emotional territory he's never known. It isn't a cliché, and it isn't the honeymoon phase talking. It's a deeply personal admission that what he's feeling is unlike anything in his past. Here's why this matters so much in a relationship with an older woman. Older women often bring depth, emotional maturity, and a calm presence a younger man may never have encountered before. She tends to approach the relationship with intentionality, clarity, and stability. The emotional safety, thoughtful communication, and mutual respect can feel profoundly different from what he's used to, and he feels it. This phrase often arises after a meaningful moment, a long, intimate conversation, an act of unexpected kindness, a quiet moment of understanding. Something clicks inside him, and suddenly the love he thought he knew is eclipsed by something bigger, deeper, truer. When he says this, he's also acknowledging that you evoke a version of himself he didn't know existed, that the connection has reached emotional depths he never imagined, and that his previous relationships now feel incomplete by comparison. This phrase doesn't just describe the relationship, it redefines it, setting you apart in his emotional memory as a first, not just in age, but in significance. 9. I wish we'd met sooner. At first, this might sound bittersweet, even paradoxical. But when a man says this, he's expressing something far deeper than a wish to turn back time. He's mourning the time they didn't get to share, not because of your age, but because of the love he's discovered now. This isn't about wishing you were younger, it's about wishing the connection had been given more time to grow. It reflects his deep appreciation for your presence in his life, a longing for a fuller shared history, more milestones, more memories, more life together. This phrase tends to surface in quiet moments, while reminiscing, looking through old photos, or even during ordinary routines that suddenly feel precious. It's a moment of emotional clarity that says, I cherish you so much, I wish we had more of this. It also points to something profound. He sees a future with you. He isn't thinking of the relationship as limited or temporary. He's already imagining years of memories still to come, while mourning the ones missed. This kind of sentiment is rare. It shows not just love, but reverence, a recognition that what you have is so valuable, it makes him greedy for time. Let's break down what these three phrases reveal. I don't care what people think is defiance in the name of authenticity. I've never felt this way before is emotional awakening and depth. I wish we'd met sooner is gratitude mixed with longing and vision. Together, they speak volumes. They reveal a man who has chosen love over public opinion, who is experiencing a depth that surprises even him, and who longs not for someone different, but for more time with the one he has. In age gap relationships, these phrases mark a pivotal turning point. He's not just in the relationship, he's invested, not just romantically involved, but transformed. This is where love becomes legacy, where connection starts to feel not just passionate, but permanent. We've traveled through the emotional terrain that defines a man's devotion to an older woman, his vulnerability, his admiration, his defiance, his longing. Now we arrive at the final, most intimate stage. These last two phrases aren't about flirtation or charm. They're about identity and transformation. When a man says these things, he's revealing the core impact the relationship has had on him. Not just how he feels about you, but how he feels about himself because of you. 10. I can be myself around you. This phrase is deceptively simple, but in the world of romantic connection, especially for men, it's one of the rarest and most meaningful confessions. When he says it, what he's really expressing is, "You've given me the freedom to stop performing." So many men, whether they realize it or not, wear emotional armor. They carry expectations of strength, composure, and control. In many relationships, they feel the need to edit themselves, to present a curated version of who they are in order to maintain attraction or avoid conflict. But with an older woman, something different tends to happen. In my work, I've seen that she's often lived long enough to know that authenticity beats performance. She's let go of unrealistic expectations and embraced the complexity of human nature, hers and others. That creates a grounded, accepting presence that says, "You don't have to be anything but real here." That acceptance creates a sacred emotional space. Within it, a man can finally speak without filtering, feel without hiding, admit fears and flaws without shame. When he says, "I can be myself around you," it isn't a casual compliment. It's a declaration of emotional safety. It means you've seen his whole self, the polished parts and the messy parts, and still embraced him fully. For many men, that is life-changing. 11. You've changed me. This is the summit, the final, irrefutable sign that this love isn't just something he's experiencing, it's transforming him. It doesn't always arrive in a dramatic moment. It may come in quiet reflection, after he notices how differently he reacts to conflict, how his priorities have shifted, or how much more in tune he is with himself. He isn't saying he's changed for you. That would imply effort or compromise. He's saying something more powerful. Your presence, just as you are, has made him more of who he wants to be. He wants to. In my experience, older women bring a clarity and wisdom that inspires reflection and growth. They lead not by pushing, but by modeling emotional intelligence, self-respect, and calm confidence. And that energy is contagious. He might communicate more openly and calmly, reprioritize his time toward purpose and peace, let go of toxic masculinity, or embrace healthier relationships and new pursuits. This phrase often arrives once he's noticed the difference in himself and realized, "I'm more grounded. I'm more honest." And it's because of her. It isn't about being changed in some negative or controlled way, which people sometimes wrongly assume. It's about awakening, expansion, maturity. That's a kind of love that doesn't fade. It integrates into his identity. Let's walk through the full emotional journey we've covered. I feel safe with you is emotional sanctuary. You get me like nobody else does is deep understanding. I can't imagine my life without you now is long-term attachment. You make me want to be better is inspired growth. I tell my mom about you is family integration and pride. You're the only person I can talk to about this is exclusive trust. I don't care what people think is defiance in the name of love. I've never felt this way before is emotional novelty and depth. I wish we'd met sooner is longing for more shared time. I can be myself around you is emotional authenticity. And you've changed me is identity-level transformation. Each phrase represents a stage of progression, from safety to admiration, from pride to personal evolution. And what makes them so powerful is that they're never spoken to flatter. They're felt deeply, and they arise naturally when a man finds himself connected to a woman who offers more than attraction. She offers meaning. Now let's go deeper into the psychology behind these expressions, what they reveal about him, what they give to you, and how they evolve over time. When a man falls in love with an older woman, his emotional vocabulary often expands, not because she teaches him what to say, but because the connection touches parts of his psyche that haven't been accessed before. These phrases aren't conscious strategies. They're emotional confessions that surface when certain conditions are met. The first is emotional safety. Phrases like, "I feel safe with you," and "I can be myself around you," emerge when a man feels secure emotionally and psychologically. He's no longer afraid of judgment or ridicule. In my research, I've found that older women often foster this safety because they're emotionally grounded, value honesty over ego, and respond with compassion instead of control. The second is identity resonance. Statements like, "You've changed me," and "You get me like nobody else does," reflect something I call mirroring, a powerful experience where one person sees, validates, and accepts another so deeply that they begin to evolve. He doesn't just feel loved, he feels understood. That's a form of emotional healing many people spend a lifetime searching for. The third is integration into the self. When a man says, "I can't imagine my life without you now," the relationship has become part of his identity. You're not just someone he's with, you're part of his story, part of how he sees the world and himself moving forward. In my experience, this level of connection rarely forms quickly in surface-level relationships. But when emotional depth, life perspective, and mutual respect are present, it happens faster and with more intensity. While these phrases reveal his feelings, they also serve as emotional gifts to you. They represent validation that your age, wisdom, and life experience aren't just accepted, but cherished. They offer security, the certainty that this isn't a fling or a fascination, but a connection rooted in truth. And they offer freedom, the freedom to love without constantly wondering whether he's serious or just experimenting. In a world where older women are often underestimated in romantic narratives, hearing these phrases can be deeply affirming. They break the tired stereotypes and prove that mature love isn't only possible, it's transformational. It's important to understand that these phrases mean the most when they arise organically and consistently, not in grand speeches or moments of flattery, but in quiet, unguarded moments of truth. Here's how I tell the genuine ones apart. They repeat across different contexts, not just romantic ones. They're paired with action, trust, vulnerability, and growth. And they feel spontaneous rather than rehearsed, revealed, not performed. If someone is simply telling you what they think you want to hear, the words will feel thin. They won't carry the emotional weight or behavioral alignment that makes these phrases so powerful. When they're genuine, they become road signs pointing towards something deeper and more enduring. In long-term age gap relationships, these phrases don't disappear. They evolve. "I feel safe with you" may become, "I don't know what I'd do without your steady hand in my life." "You've changed me" may deepen into, "Loving you has made me more patient, more honest, and more at peace with myself." "I wish we'd met sooner" can transform into, "I'm so glad we have the time we do. I'm not wasting a second of it." Over time, the emotional truth behind these phrases doesn't fade. It matures. It becomes the glue that holds the relationship together through inevitable challenges. And as new chapters unfold, career changes, health shifts, family transitions, those foundational truths remain constant. At the heart of all this is a larger truth I've come to believe through my years of studying love. It doesn't consult a calendar. It asks who you are, not how old you are. These 11 phrases aren't tied to age, they're tied to depth. And in my experience, it's the emotional maturity, life perspective, and clarity of an older woman that draws these confessions out of a man who's finally ready for something real. This kind of love isn't about fantasy. It's about finding someone who brings out the best in you, someone who grounds you, grows you, and helps you feel truly seen. And when that moment arrives, the age difference stops being the center of the story. What matters is this: do you feel emotionally safe? Do you feel seen? Do you feel understood? Do you feel encouraged to become more of yourself? Do you feel loved without having to shrink, pretend, or apologize for who you are? If the answer is yes, then what you found isn't illusion. It's something genuine. The 11 phrases we've explored aren't just beautiful expressions of romance. They're signs of emotional honesty. When a man speaks these words, and more importantly, proves them through his actions, he's revealing that his love for an older woman isn't rooted in curiosity or temporary excitement. It's rooted in something deeper, steadier, and far more meaningful. These aren't empty lines. They're emotional landmarks. The moments when feeling finds its voice, when love becomes language, and language becomes something unforgettable.